And what is up, you guys? If you are joining, you're probably a die-hard Mets fan, and you're getting ready for their weekend series with the West Sacramento Athletics. No, that is not a typo. That's literally what they're called. Actually, if you go on Baseball Reference, they have to be called just the Athletics now that they are out of Oakland. So the Mets heading to West Sacramento for the very first time in their history. It's actually the 63rd ballpark that they've ever played in over their 60-odd years in Major League Baseball. So this should be fun. I'm really excited to see this new ballpark, and hopefully the Mets continue on a strong start to 2025. So let's get into this. Let's talk about tonight's matchup between Griffin Canning and J.P. Spears. First, let's take a look at the Athletics and how they've been faring so far here in 2025. We know the fan base is disgruntled. Things have not been going so well over the last several years, not only because they don't spend money and don't invest in the team, but because they're leaving Oakland and heading to Las Vegas. So their record and play on the field, not a whole lot better so far this year. 5-8 overall. They're 3-7 in their last 10, and a -17 run differential, the third worst in the American League, or rather the third worst. Yes, that's right. Third worst in Major League Baseball, worst in the American League. There you go. See, third time's a charm. I got it. West Sacramento, the new stadium that they're playing at, is a absolute launching pad. In 6 total games so far, get this, combined 70 runs scored between the Athletics and their opponents and 18 home runs. 11 of them have come against the Athletics, though, so that's something you kind of have to figure. The A's entered this with the 4th worst ERA in baseball, 5.12 in the early going so far. And then the Mets looking for their 4th straight series victory. So let's get into it. Let's preview tonight's matchup. We got Griffin Canning going up against J.P. Spears. So we'll start with Canning. So far, so good. 2025 has been a great rebirth for Canning, who was a former top prospect with the Angels. Didn't work out over the last several years. He had Tommy John surgery, and he just never really put it together. But he's looking like that diamond in the rough that David Stearns is known for getting. So far here in 2025, 2 starts, small sample size, I know, but a 2.79 ERA, over 9.2 innings pitched. He has a 2-to-1 strikeout ratio, and I think the Mets pitching lap has made another demon. Okay, we saw it last year with Sean Manaea. We saw it to a degree with Luis Severino, who, by the way, we're going to be facing on Sunday. Fingers crossed, former Mets don't come back to haunt us like they always do. I know it's wishful thinking, but so far, Canning has been really, really great. Last time out versus Toronto, that was on Saturday. I was actually at that game. A nice walk-off victory courtesy of Francisco Lindor's sacrifice fly. He went 4 innings pitched, gave up 1 run on 4 hits and 3 walks. So some stats to know with Canning. His career against the Athletics, I ain't even going to lie, it's ugly. It's not very good, okay? He's made 11 career starts against the A's, obviously being in the AL West with the Angels for his whole career before this season. He has a 4.84 ERA. I just said that, but last year he really got roughed up by them. In 2 starts, gave up 7 runs in just 10 innings. So the A's have definitely had his number over the last couple years. But like I said, this is a different Griffin Canning that we have seen so far in 2025. So far this year, he is a 60% ground ball rate. That is in the 85th percentile among MLB pitchers this year. And he's really been keying in on that slider. He has thrown it 44% of the time, even more than his fastball. Again, this I think goes back to the Mets pitching lab, trying to figure out, hey, which pitches from his arm angle works best for him and has the best shape. And clearly that slider has been the one that he has been most comfortable and most effective with. So really excited to see him take the mound here again for a 3rd time in 2025. Key things that I will be looking for with Canning. Is he for real? 2 starts, it's a small sample size. And look, 3 starts, that's still a small sample size. If he goes out and he goes 7 shutty tonight, I'm not still ready to say that he's a future ace and that we got a guy for the next 5 years. If he goes out and he gets shelled tonight, I'm also not going to say that it's a bad signing, but it would be nice to see him put together another great start here against West Sacramento. whatever you want to call them. Oakland, Las Vegas. Also, will the A's be jumping and waiting, sitting on that slider? Like I said, he throws it 44% of the time. They got tape on him now. This is a different Griffin Canning from the version that was with the Angels. Are they going to be sitting on that slider, be patient, lay off of it, or just kind of be ready to attack it and do some damage? So that's what I'll be looking for. And meanwhile, let's look at the Oakland A's lineup for tonight. So pretty interesting one. We know they're not exactly the most talented bunch, but there's a few recognizable names here. So Lawrence Butler, their leadoff man, he is 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs against Canning in his career. Brent Rooker, we know all about Brent Rooker. Great home run slugger, rookie of the year. He's 3 for 9, also has a homer and 2 ribbies against the Athletics. They don't have a whole lot of talent outside of Rooker, but if there is one other guy that the Mets pitching staff needs to worry about this weekend, it's this guy, Tyler Soderstrom. 354 average, 1100 OPS, 6 homers, and 10 RBIs already this season. He is 0 for 5 in his career against Canning, but this guy could be torturing the Mets all weekend if they're not careful. Hitting cleanup, Shea Langoliers, he's dangerous, but just 1 for 7 and a homer against Canning. JJ Bleday is hitless in 5 at-bats. Jacob Wilson, 1 home run in his lone at-bat against Canning. Miguel Andujar, the former Yankee, 1 for 5. Gio Urshela, another former Yankee, journeyman as well. He is 1 for 3 in his career, and rounding out the lineup is Max Muncy. No, not the Max Muncy that looks like a possum from the Dodgers. He does have the same name, and the same birthday, but he's not the same guy. I got caught off guard. My girlfriend's here. She's a Dodgers fan, and I always say, Max Muncy looks like a possum. I can't stand that guy. Anyway, it's going to be great to see. Hopefully Canning have another solid start. This isn't a extremely talented lineup, but I think they're probably better than the Marlins, who he has not faced so far this year. But hopefully he'll put together this 3rd consecutive great start, and we can start thinking about him, sticking around in the rotation. Him and Tyler McGill obviously battling out to see who's going to stick in it when Sean Manaea comes back, if everybody's healthy. But there is a possibility the Mets go to a 6-man rotation. You can only do that if you have 6 good starting pitchers. So far, so good from Canning and from McGill for that matter. Now, let's take a look at J.P. Sears. J.P. Sears entering his 4th year in the big leagues. Career 4.22 ERA in 77 starts. 3.46 ERA in 2 starts this year over 13 innings. His last time out, he went 6 1/3, allowed 3 earned runs on 6 hits against the Rockies. Notable, he pitched that game at Coors Field, which we know is just home run heaven. So he's had a pretty solid season so far, has Spears. His career versus the Mets, he has 2 starts. The most recent coming in 2023, that was 6 innings where he gave up 2 runs, both Lindor and Alonso with homers against him in that game. So let's take a look at the Mets lineup for tonight. And this is a very interesting one. There's a couple of things that we're going to talk about here. Obviously, we know Lindor at his usual spot at top of the order. He has that home run and his overall 3 for 5 with 3 ribbies against Spears. Juan Soto hits second. He has 2 hits in 6 at-bats lifetime. Pete Alonso, his lone hit was that home run in 5 career at-bats. Starling Marte hitting cleanup, the first time this year. So Spears is a lefty, so it makes sense that Marte's in the lineup. Nimmo is still in the lineup. He's right behind him, but it'll be Marte hitting cleanup, Nimmo hitting 5th. Then after that, Mark Vientos. What are the Mets going to get from Mark Vientos this series? Is he going to break out of this little mini slump that he's been in to start the year? Are we going to start to see 2024 Vientos? If you guys saw me on TikTok or my previous video previewing this series that came out yesterday, I said I think Juan Soto is going to have a huge series, 2, maybe even 3 home runs in these next 3 games. But I also predicted I think Mark Vientos is going to break out and he will hit his first round bagger of the season. So hopefully that is the case. After Vientos hitting 7th, Luis Angel Acuna. And you know what that means? No Brett Baty. Baty out of the lineup, which is really, let's be honest, it's because they're facing a left-hander. So Acuna getting the start. We knew this was the plan for Mendoza before the season began, that Baty would get the starts versus righties, Acuna would get the starts versus lefties. And so he's sticking to that. It just happens to be timed right after Beatty makes that brutal throwing error the other day, took 2 more strikeouts and another offer. So maybe Luis Angel Acuna going to start eating into Brett Beatty's playing time if he starts to perform with these opportunities that he gets. And then probably maybe the biggest news, I think, of the day, Luis Torrens is back. Luis Torrens, who missed the last 5 games with a bruised right forearm. He ended up getting an MRI on it last week. Fortunately, imaging came back negative. He is good to go. He is back in the lineup. But let's give a little round of applause. Hayden Sanger in that time was fantastic while he sat in for Luis Torrens, threw out a couple base runners and a couple nice defensive plays, and even got a couple base knocks. So really great job from Hayden Sanger. Happy to see it, but even happier for Luis Torrens to be in the lineup. And then Jose Siri rounds things out. So keys for the Mets lineup that I will be paying attention to here this tonight and the rest of this series for the weekend. Can they find consistency at the plate? We've seen them score 10 runs against the Marlins, and then the next day they only get 2 hits. We've seen them score 10 runs and then just really not do a whole lot. So can they finally do it? This is the place to do it. Like I said, 18 home runs, 70 combined runs scored at this ballpark in just 6 games so far. And that Oakland pitching staff, 4th worst ERA in Major League Baseball right now at 5.12. JP Spears, going to be a tough matchup tonight, but I definitely think this is the weekend where the Mets offense puts it all together and has the most consistent 3-game stretch that we've seen so far in 2025. Like I said, can Vientos get out of this slump? Will Juan Soto have a big weekend like I've predicted? Also, how's Acuna going to do in this opportunity tonight? It's not going to make or break him. If he goes 3 for 3, I still can't say he's going to be in the lineup consistently moving forward. I think Mendoza has gotten marching orders from David Stearns to make sure that Beatty is in the lineup anytime there's a righty starter. But at a certain point, push comes to shove, you're going to have to think about replacing Beatty if Acuna is in fact performing. And lastly, will the Mets finally get some production out of center field? Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri have been invisible so far, a combined 131 average to this point in the season. We know they're both really here for their defense, but last year, Taylor, he had some pretty good stretches there at the plate. We know Jose Siri will run into a few. We were hoping, hey, maybe 15, 18 home runs, but we know he's probably going to hit around the Mendoza line, not to be confused with Mets manager Carlos Mendoza. But eventually, the Mets will need to get some production out of center field, especially with how lackluster second base has been to this point. So hopefully the Mets kick things off with a W here tonight. We are going to do a post-game stream as well, so be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. You can also check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and X and Twitter, whatever they call it. And definitely we'll check back in with you guys later, hopefully after a Mets dub. Let's go Mets.